This is Veteran State of Mind. I'm your host, Geraint Jones. And look, I'm going to be honest, I'm recording this intro for the third time. I'm really struggling to speak today. I don't know if I had a really good workout or a stroke, but one way or the other, we're going to get these fucking adverts done, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to go over to our sponsor's website and I'm going to read verbatim from the website. First of all, I want to say a massive thank you to Zulu Alpha Strap Company. All right, I'm going to read from the website now, okay? Veteran owned and operated. Not that makes us special, but it does make us aware of the environments our customers operate in, and it does make us accountable. Before becoming strap guys, we were watch guys. We looked at the strap game and couldn't find anything of superior quality that was fundamentally utilitarian in design. I'm going to jump in here. The strap game sounds like something that goes down in Chicago. I want to say that this is a perfectly legitimate company and we're definitely not selling weapons on this podcast. All right, back to them. So we made our own. The original was as rough as Tarzan's feet. Oh, bloody hell, who wrote this? But it planted the seed and set the wheels in motion. The first model was produced with surplus British military equipment, which included an SA-80 rifle sling. That was shared on a few forums, and before we knew it, we were getting orders. Naturally, this then evolved into something bigger than we could ever imagine. Right, I'm going to skip ahead now because there's quite a lot here. I'm going to go to the end, which is usually what I do when I watch a movie. Our flags, they come from Wales, hey, who have absolutely no history or business. Hang on. They absolutely no history or business producing flags, but I went to school with Dave who makes them, and he's a good bloke. Right, maybe I would have just been better off doing this off the top of my head as I was doing before. But you know what? I love these guys. They have been supporting us for so long in the podcast. It's not a stretch to say that the podcast probably would have got off the ground if it wasn't for Zulu Alpha Straps. So thank you very much, Zulu Alpha Straps. And thank you, Combat Fuel, for sponsoring not only the podcast, but my juicy gains. I had a fantastic workout before I came down here. I'm having a lot of good workouts at the moment, to be honest, guys. I mean, it's summer's here, and it's a lot easier to work out when, you know, we're when we're ashamed to take our clothes off. It gives us that extra bit of motivation, as does, segue, Pump Up pre-workout, and also regular pre-workout from Combat Fuel. I like the sour apple flavour. I like the strawberry and lime flavour. Sometimes I even mix a bit of both of them. Never did chemistry in school. Look at me now. If you are interested in your sporting supplements, guys, then Combat Fuel are the people to check out. They support veteran charities. They support this podcast. They do a lot of other things with veterans. One of the guys they have in a lot of the times to do their, like I say, like modelling and athlete stuff, he was actually in my section on my PTI card as well. So I can vouch that they only go for the best looking blokes in the business. Check them out at Combat Fuel. And if you use the code VSOM at checkout, you will get, I think it's 15% off. I always get it wrong. I'm going to say 15%. I'm going to, but don't ask me for the difference if it's less. If it's more, you can give me the difference. How about that? All right. Let's get into today's guest. I'm really excited about this one, guys. I mean, ridiculously excited. This is a very, 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 very special treat for me. This guy is, like, you guys will know from some of the guests we've had on before and some of the stories that dance music is one of the biggest parts of my life, probably one of the best parts of my life, to be quite honest. And it might not have happened if not for this guy, because he is one of the founders of the dance music scene in the UK, and therefore I would say the world, because I do think Britain is really kind of like always led the charge when it comes to dance music. He's also been very vocal about basically everything that's been going on in the last 18 months, standing up for people's rights, standing up for liberty, and obviously these things that I something that's quite common to a lot of the guests we bring on, because to be honest, that's the way I kind of look at the world, and I'm always very grateful to people that do stick up for other people. He's also a veteran of the British Army, which I was not aware of until recently. So I had to get him on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. We're going to jump all over the board from, what's going on in the world right now to talking about collective consciousness, humanity, all this kind of things. It's going to be bouncing all over the place, guys. I know you're going to love this one. So please give a very warm welcome to Mr. Danny Rampling. Danny, how are you doing, mate?
Hello, guys. All right. Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm very happy. Very looking forward to today. I sent you a picture before of my Love Groove dance party tape.
You did, yes.
One of my first dance music purchases, mate. And I always like to say thank you to people that have, I'd say, influenced my life from afar. You're one of those people, so thank you very much, mate. So we've got a lot to talk about, mate, today. There's a lot going on in the world. It seems every day there is something new that makes me wonder if we're living in virtual reality or not. But one of the things I only found out about you recently is that you yourself served in the British military, and I'm always fascinated to know the reason people gravitated towards the military. Can you tell us a bit about, like, when you were a kid? Was there military influences in your life, be it family, TV, that kind of thing?
Yeah. The gravitation towards the military and wanting to join the army was, I lived with my grandfather and my grandmother from a young age, at about 12 years old. My grandfather he was a father figure to me, and he served in the Ox and Bucks. He was wounded at Dunkirk. He served in Burma. He was a PTI. He served at Hythe in Kent and Bulford. He was also friends with Major John Howard. This came to light after his death, my grandfather's death, but he was very friendly with Major John Howard of the 2nd Ox and Bucks, who formed the glider division, which led the assault on Pegasus Bridge, which paved the way for the D-Day landing. So his army history, we used to sit in the kitchen and chat. We'd always have these chats, and he was greatly inspiring, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. School, I didn't perform very well at school. I didn't really like it. I left at 15 and got a job as an apprentice carpenter, and that was quite perfectly normal back then in the 70s, and I didn't like that either. So it was around 1982, but we were living together, and he would, he'd tell me stories about his service, and he was saying, the army is a good career and you could travel the world and all of this. And he didn't want to travel after the war. He didn't go overseas again after he returned from Burma. He'd seen enough of the world, I think, and also the horrors of of World War II. He was part of the British BEF, the expedition force that went into Europe, which was the prelude to war breaking out in 1939. So, he used to tell me a lot of stories. He wasn't glorifying, and he didn't tell me everything, obviously, that he'd experienced. I only got, kind of broken, kind of like small amounts of information of Dunkirk and being evacuated. I know that his platoon, they were shelled, and all of the men were lost apart from 3 of them. He was badly wounded. He was evacuated with other wounded, which was very fortunate. And then he went to a convalescence home to recover, and then a couple of years as a PTI on from that. So he had a very close shave and a miraculous escape from Dunkirk. Many didn't, and I'm fascinated by that story of Dunkirk. And when I watched the movie of that, it was it's quite a tough one because of the history, the family history. So he was a great influence on me. So around 1981, I really kind of had an urge to follow in his footsteps more so, because I'd walked away from this apprentice carpenter job and I was just doing other jobs and stuff. So I started training. I was always keeping fit, and I was unemployed at the time. So I started training, and I trained for about a year, and I applied in Norbury in South London careers office to join the army. And they ask you which regiment you'd like to join and why you want to join the army and so on. But it took a long while to actually go to Sutton Coldfield Selection Centre. And in between that time, there was the Falklands War that happened over that short space of a few months. And I really wanted to, to sign up and join the army. And I went to Sutton Coldfield. It was either November 82 or it was January 83. I can't remember precisely. And I went there. I've never been to Sutton Coldfield or Birmingham. It's on the outskirts of Birmingham, the West Country, the Black Country or whatever it's called. It was quite an experience. So took the train up there. my grandfather gave me some advice. He said, keep quiet, keep your head down, and don't make sure you address officers as sir. And I was pretty cocky at that age. I was fit. And the first day, it arrived in the afternoon. It was processed, and then had something to eat, and then there was a group dorm, just like kind of how soldiers and spend their time, kind of sleeping, and that was the first time away sleeping in a group dorm since kind of the Cub Scouts, so to speak. So the next day was the fitness test and the interview. So with the fitness, I had no problem. I was so fit because I'd trained for a year and I had plenty of time on my hands. And I knew what to, with the training, I'd run for miles in boots to prepare myself. So the BFT was done, and I did that all right. But there was one part of the fitness test, which was the pull-ups. And I think it was 20 or 30 pull-ups. It may have been 15, 20 or 30. I can't remember. It's a long, long while ago. Anyway, I was doing the pull-ups, and there was a captain from the Parachute Regiment, a very tall chap with silver hair, and he looked like he just stepped out of, off of Goose Green. And I made a very big mistake because I was doing the pull-ups. I did the required 15 or 20 or whatever it was, and I don't know where it came from. I just said, "Is that it?" And he exploded. "Is that it?" "No, sir, nothing." He exploded. So I think my card was marked there before I got into the interview, and then the BFT, I think, was an hour or two, a couple of hours in the morning. And then there was an interview in the afternoon, whether you had passed the BFT and to be placed into a regiment. So this interview was a real psychological test. And being like, I think, I don't know how old, 21, 22, don't really know a lot, do you? Kind of, if you haven't been to university and stuff. So, it was a psychological interview. It was, there was this, another officer character with his dog by his side, kind of straight out of a film, in this office with all of these, awards up on the wall and certificates and pictures of, regiments and stuff. And, I had this interview, and I had a real good head for heights then, because I had been doing exterior painting and working at height for off and on for 3 or 4 years. So I had no problem with heights, and I didn't pass that interview for some reason, and I still to this day I just think, what was it that I didn't get through? Anyway, he said to me at the end of the interview, he said, "Well, you haven't met the requirements for the Parachute Regiment, but you can join the Royal Green Jackets." And I said to him, "Well, I've only come here to join the Parachute Regiment. That's the battalion. That's the regiment I want to join." He said, "Well, you could join the Royal Green Jackets, and then you could transfer." And I just said, "Well, that's not what I've come here for." And I didn't fully appreciate the fact that my grandfather had, served in the Ox and Bucks, which were the battalion that later became the Royal Green Jackets. So he obviously put that two and two together, asking questions about the military. What does your mother think? And your parents, if you went to Northern Ireland, all this stuff. All these questions, these precise questions. So I didn't get the opportunity to join, and I think I would have made a kind of a career out of it. But I think everything in life happens for a reason, and James O'Connell from 3 Days in June said to me, he said, "That wasn't going to be your life path. That's like that's how it is. And he's a great guy. His book 3 Days in June is it's an excellent account of Mount Longdon. So I left there absolutely gutted. I felt like I'd let my grandfather down in a massive way. And I just, returned home really disappointed, so disappointed. I can remember it clearly now. I remember walking back into the house, and, he was like looking excited because there was no mobile phones then, was there? The information age we live in now. And Yeah, I think he could tell by the look of disappointment on my face. And I said, well, I didn't get in. And he said, well, don't worry too much about it. It's one of those things, you've had a good go at it. And, it's like, a job interview, and sometimes you don't get the job. So he said to me, but you could join the reserves. And I didn't even know what the reserves were at that time. But he'd served in the reserves before the BEF. And in the 1930s, he had done 2 years service with the Territorial Army. So he knew quite a bit about it. And he served after the war in the Territorial Army. And I didn't really have much understanding of that. So he got me the number of the Duke of York's HQ in King's Road, London, where 10 Para were stationed at that time. They're no longer a battalion. And I called them up and went along there in, I think it was March or April in 1983, and did the BFT. There was a load of other blokes there, and passed that, and then got the approval to go to the training weekends ahead of P Company. So out of that, kind of setback at Sutton Coldfield, and it was a major blow, massive blow. The disappointment from that was it went on for quite some time, but then I joined the TA, and I went through the Finchley training wing. There's 3 weekends there, and then to Aldershot for P Company at Malta Barracks. And shortly before, I think it was a couple of months before, he passed away. He went into hospital to have a minor heart operation, and he passed away at 72. I think he was 72 or 76, but that was a real shock. So I firmly believe that I channeled his spirit and in his memory, and that's what got me through it. If all of the tests and all of the resilience and everything that you have to endure, I just kept thinking about him and not wanting to disappoint him a second time around, and that's what got me through.
I have a purpose, mate, in anything.
Yeah,
purpose is like, we need it in life. We need it for anything that's arduous. You got to have purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what was it like when you did finish that? When you did finish P Company, sorry, what was that like for you?
Well, I remember it was a really hot morning in July, and it's the pass out. So, not everyone knows that they've made the grade. And I can remember this CSM saying, "Put your tongue in your mouth," because I had a habit of kind of licking my lips.
When you're nervous?
Yeah, I suppose so. And he was like, "Put your fucking tongue in your mouth," and kind of like, he was a real short CSM. He'd been in the Falklands as well. But I really liked it at Aldershot, at Browning Barracks. We were in Malta Barracks, which is adjacent to there. But the food was really good there, and we were all bloody hungry because of all the tests, the log race and the steeplechase and all these different tests and the 10 miler and everything. And it was a great experience. And then I done all of the Trinasium and everything else, and I really believe that I'm going to get that berry on this square, and I did, and I was bloody elated. I couldn't describe the feeling of accomplishment, and the for the memory of my grandfather as well. I was just like kind of jumping for joy, but just wished he could have been there to have seen that. But I guess kind of he knew. And that was a really good experience, and that set me up. And then I went and joined a 4 Company in 10 Para, and I, still friends with all those guys today. Kind of on a WhatsApp group, we meet up once a year, and we're brothers for life.
Get smashed.
Well, I have a few pints. Yeah,
a few.
The yard of ale.
I'm interested in knowing then, where was music then when this was going on? When your fitness was going on? When the military thing was music in your life then?
Well, it came into my life around that time. But music's always been in my life, and I always wanted to work on a radio station. When I was a kid, I was fascinated by the radio, and I dreamt of like playing on Radio Luxembourg and Radio Caroline, and I was just obsessed with how the sound came out of a small radio on the kitchen work surface that my mother used to play all the time. So I had an interest in collecting records from a young age. And when I was in the TA, I was just getting started. A guy invited me to play in a bar in southeast London. I got £9 for that first night, and that paid for the taxi home across South London. But that was the start of it, and I was in the battalion then. They had a Christmas disco, and I wasn't experienced enough to play at that. They had a DJ, but I was not particularly ready for that. But those kind of gatherings there within the kind of festive, battalion get-togethers were always raucous, and a lot of entertainment went on. So I had a hand in music, which was forming, and had this, kind of opportunity to have the best of both worlds. That's the way I look at it. And I was very interested in fashion, and I took a lot of stick for that. And there is a there is a mention of it in Pegasus magazine about my look at the Christmas disco.
Oh, because I was in the TA myself when I was in uni and everything.
Yeah, and
back in those days I used to DJ on vinyl and stuff as well. And I remember I managed to get hypothermia on Salisbury Plain in August once. Don't ask me how that happened. I was being a crowbag lying in a wet ditch, and then on the Saturday I rushed back to Wrexham for a gig with all about 3 people turned up for. But I used to catch a lot of stick in the TA lot, because it's fair to say that the TA lot, especially because it's a bit older, it's quite a conservative mob of people, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so it's kind of like all that type of music. Yeah, it's not kind of like, what's this, like, crap. It's like, but I have played a couple of dues subsequent. I played a short set in Arnhem at the 75th.
Oh, nice.
That was 2 years ago now, wasn't it? But that was incredible. In this bar, and then outside there was just hundreds of people. Kind of the lads, and there was a bit of naked dancing on a table. So we
surprise.
I didn't play like kind of the house stuff. It was just more kind of like party, kind of like kind of bloke sing along stuff. But
they'll get naked to anything, mate.
It was a hilarious moment. There's a guy called Adrian, and he got up on this barrel table and like became one of the Chippendales, and the Dutch police came over. Hey, there's no nakedness here. You cannot take off your clothes. And they took him to one side, and he got a right old dressing down, and they ordered him to get his clothes on. He was very Dobbo. He was very lucky to escape with just a warning. But it was just, the atmosphere was tremendous. And I played at the Pegasus Ball in London a couple of years ago as well. That was a good one. That ended in a bit of nakedness as well in the Connaught rooms.
Who saw that coming?
But yes, so it's it's a completely different environment. But I'm really proud of the fact that I decided to do that, and that was one of my early kind of ambitions. But what that did, it really taught me about resilience and to keep going. And this yourself, and kind of in the face of adversity, keep going. And it taught me a lot about myself as well, kind of like looking after yourself, and not that I was kind of not doing that, but just the importance of discipline and resilience and what you can achieve. And as a result of that really opened me up to what I could achieve. even that some may say, well, that's just, kind of doing a load of fitness and, kind of with a load of blokes and,
But it's actually what you're doing is the fitness is secondary. It's the mental training.
Yeah.
That actually makes a difference.
Absolutely.
And for anyone that wants to do something that's outside of the ordinary, you're going to require resilience. So if you want to become an artist in any form of art, if you want to become self-employed, if you want to become a parent or anything, like you got to have to build resilience. And one of the things you get basically that the army gives you is a crash course in resilience at a very early age.
Oh, yeah.
And I almost feel it's disappointing in this country. I don't feel that we make the most of our veterans as a country. I don't feel that, because people come out and they're like, people take the piss out of infantry. It's like, oh, great, you ran around for 4 years and you just shot guns. What can you do? Well, actually, loads of things, because you have a degree in resilience, basically.
Yeah, the mindset. Yeah, it's about mindset. But yeah, I agree with you. The veterans here are not as appreciated as somewhere like America. Men and women here have given a lot and sacrificed a lot. And, growing up in the 1960s, born in the 60s and growing up with, my grandfather who served, I come from that set of values. So someone who's born, in the 80s or 90s may not have those values, because it's quite a chunk of time, 30 odd years and, kind of 50 years back then. So I think, we're part of that generation. That's my experience. But I just, I feel that it's served me very well in life. It really has. And I keep myself fit. I eat healthy. It's self-responsibility to one's health and well-being is very important. And, the challenges that life throws up at you, we have our ups and downs. Having that strength of mind, it serves us all.
Well, you and I are both very big on personal rights, but you just said something there which is, to me, goes hand in hand with it, is personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
Can you talk through a bit more? You mentioned values. Can you talk a bit more about what those values are to you, like what they were as a kid and what they are now?
Well, it's respecting yourself and respecting others and respecting opinions. And I very much uphold personal sovereignty as well. I mean, that's very important to me. But I'm the keeper of my own kingdom. I don't belong to somebody else as a human being. We're born into this world free. And I think, recognizing and the realization that we are sovereign beings and we take responsibility for our health. What you put into your body is your responsibility. So recognizing that, and that's where I stand as a man. Self-sovereignty is very, very important. And they're my values. It's values. They're my personal values, yeah. Yeah,
my thing there is basically anyone who's been listening to the podcast for a while now has heard me shouting about this for the last year and a half. I'm very much along the lines of like, I sometimes think, to be honest, we should have been like people with mindsets like you and me. I think we're almost like we should have been born on the other side of the Atlantic, because when you talk to British people a lot of the time and be like, no, my rights come from being alive, not from the government. They look at you like you've just come down from, because the way that we kind of operate in this country is, well, no, the government give you the rights. It's like, no. I have rights just by existing as a human being.
Absolutely.
The government then impose on me. But it's the same way as a kidnapper taking me and then being like, oh, there's some water. I wouldn't say to the kidnapper, then what a nice bloke, he just gave me some water. It's like, he's still a fucking kidnapper.
No, absolutely not.
And that's the way I see it with rights, mate. So can you explain to people then a bit more about, because I got to be honest, I kind of came to this realization. I was one of these people that was like, British government, best government in the world. We're the knight in shining armour around the world. We don't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And I think there used to be some truth in that. I mean, like our grandfather's generation, I think that was the truth. But unfortunately, that they've taken the goodwill of the people and they've twisted our best in, because we are all good. Most people are good people, and they've twisted our best intentions to give themselves power. When did you start to kind of like, because I'm sure you were like me growing up, it was very much like Britain, Britain, Britain. When did you start to think like, hang on a minute, this isn't all that they're kind of saying it is?
I think, kind of through the 80s period, there was that widespread unemployment. And I didn't really I wasn't interested in politics. And, we just got on and done our own thing. And that's how the whole scene began, because we created our own culture. And we weren't interested in politics and all that was going on. And that created this, dance music industry that we know and love today. So, and then the 90s, the Criminal Justice Bill was introduced for outdoor parties. Now, I didn't play on a lot of raves, but, the freedom to party and express yourself and play music is very important to most people. Dancing is, it's a primal need, and it goes back to the beginning of time. Has always been part of culture, society. And then that happened, the Criminal Justice Bill. And the only politician that was really standing out at that time was Tony Benn, who I think, looking back on it, and his political career, he was a very good politician who didn't lean too far one way or the other, and was for human rights and fairness. And we don't see much of that in politics these days. There's a lot of politicians who are career motivated, towing party lines. And I think, recently it's just all of this that's going on. It's just, what right do this government have to exert these draconian and totalitarian powers upon good people? And we, as you just said, most people are good, and they want, they want to help other people. So this is a very, very strange time that we're living in. Yes, there's a virus, but the measures that have been drafted in, the devastation to the economy and people's livelihoods, families, mental health, children, it's extreme. And a lot of it is totally unacceptable. Now, as law-abiding citizens, we have a right to voice our opinions and our minds if something isn't right. And what's going on at the moment, I think many people feel that it isn't right, and it's unacceptable, and it's unjust. So therefore, we do have a right to criticise the restrictions. I haven't worked for 16 months, and it has taken its toll on so many people and businesses, and it's very, very difficult. It's really challenging. I've been studying some other things, but that hasn't, kind of yielded employment yet, because I still haven't got the qualification.
And why should you have to retrain yourself? Like, why should you? Like, you because there's literally, like, it's like, which I will say I commend you for doing, because I do think at the end of the day, as we all know, you only have so much time on this earth. It's up to you and me to make the most of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you shouldn't have to fucking retrain.
No.
You should be able to open up every week. People should have had the option about whether they wanted to go or not. And if they didn't want to go, they didn't have to go.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, and that didn't happen, and that's, that isn't acceptable at all. The music industry, the travel industry, the hospitality industries have been devastated and hanging on by a string. Many businesses have collapsed. And many people are in challenging circumstances financially. And it's gone on too long now. It's 16 months. We were hoping on the 21st of June, but I remained sceptical from the history of the last 16 months that, my promoter friends were like, hey, yeah, we've got we're opening up and it's great. And I said, well, just observe a bit of caution. So I had 3 dates in July scheduled that were cancelled because of this moving it along to a date further down on the 19th of July. So we'll see what happens there. But the industry is in disarray, and it's impact. The negative impact of this is widespread. It's not just venues. There's the whole infrastructure around everything that goes on in a music venue or an arts venue. There's so many different people that work there and are employed, and everybody who's not on furlough. There's 3 million freelancers. I'm one of those people. Not that I want, to be furloughed, who haven't qualified for meaningful government support, and that's why I've supported the campaigns from Forgotten Limited, whose small limited company directors and self-employed people have fallen through any meaningful support. And here we are, 16 months later, and still in the same position right now, and I think it's very difficult because it's so uncertain. I do promote events myself, but I'm finding it very difficult to say, well, actually, okay, let's put an event on in September when it's very uncertain. It's this stop and start, and funding events is costly and it's a risk. It's a financial risk, any event that you put on. But in this climate, I admire all of the promoters that are going ahead and putting events on, and smaller type festivals. Most of the large festivals have had to have cancelled because of the insurance, not being able to get insured against the festival. And really, it's killed our joy.
And that's a big thing about it, mate, because there's obviously there is the financial impact on everything, and which is fucking awful in itself.
Yeah.
But to me, it's an attack on what it means to be human being. Like it's this idea of separating us into our little fucking cocoons. Most people do not live in. I'm very lucky, mate. I live in a nice house in the countryside, right? And I fucking hated lockdown. But most people, you're in an apartment or you're in a small house, separated from other people. One of the reasons I think as a society, mental health problems has been getting worse is because we've been losing community. And one of the places we still had community was in the clubs. People talk about racism. Have you ever seen racism in a fucking club? It doesn't exist.
Oh.
All these things that bring us together happen in a club.
Yeah.
And if I'm putting my tinfoil hat on, which I like to do sometimes, I would say that this is a deliberate, sometimes I think this is deliberate to break the unity that exists in the younger, because it is mostly younger generations that go to clubs.
Yeah.
And it's the younger generations who don't give a fuck about racism. They don't care about racism. It's the younger generations that want equality across class systems.
Yeah.
So keep the younger people apart. Don't let them mix. Is I think is what their plan is, mate. I genuinely think that there is some, because the same with the rave culture in the 90s. I feel that we're on racism was like in our younger generations. People have got friends of every color. There's fucking nobody gives a fuck. And I really feel that, because we saw it with everything that was going on last year, the mainstream media's very one-sided coverage of any time there was a person of colour killed by a car. And you're like, they're fucking trying to keep everyone fucking broken up. I can't see it any other way.
Yeah, it's a divide and conquer agenda. And there are parallels here with the rave scene and outdoor party scene. You go back to the 90s, Castle Morton, where they deconstructed all that and brought it back into nightclubs. But they really, kind of took that scene apart, the outdoor scene. It was very much like now. But here now, in the present, there are a number of, would you term it illegal, but people just getting on and doing their thing in fields on people's land and warehouses. And this has been going on for quite some time, just underground events. And if things don't get back going on, then it's going to be a return to the source on a wider scale, like it was back in the late 80s and the early 90s. Cycles repeat, and no matter how many restrictions there are, people need to dance, people need to socialise. Music unites us, and there is going to be a wider spread return to unlicensed events. Now, what that does as well, unfortunately, is licensed operators lose out because they can't open with the restrictions. So jobs are lost, business is lost. It's a merry-go-round of misery. what is happening right now. The power of music, you get 80,000 people in a field at a festival or a gig, it's electric, and it's everybody is in unity because they share the same love of music. The vibe is good. Everyone's there for a common purpose of like enjoying themselves and meeting other people and sharing music and fun times. And that is so important. And the control, they want to take that away from people's lifestyles. And personally, I feel they will not succeed. They've had a good go at doing this. And enough is enough now. It's not going to continue for the foreseeable future. We don't want to live in a world that is being shaped by certain people in this world and corporations. We don't want to live in that world. That's not and the World Economic Forum. These manifestos and this new, I don't like to use this term, the new normal. No, this is not the new normal, and this is not how we're going to be living. The new normal will be very, very different to what these organizations and are trying to impose upon the world. And this is right now, I feel that we are in a spiritual battle, and many religious and faith leaders are saying this. If you go to a rally, for example, in London, there's been 2 recent rallies where over 1 million people have attended. Now, the collective consciousness and the atmosphere there are all ages. There are children. There are all faiths. Walking in unity in large numbers of people. That is very, very powerful, and that is the human spirit of human rights, freedom, democracy, and civil liberties. There is a rally going on in London tomorrow. I shall be attending that. I've attended every London rally because I stand up and I will be vocal about my beliefs and what I believe. I've experienced a lot in my life, and at my age, in my 50s, I think, what is happening, everything we are being told, there's a great deal of hoodwinking going on. And there's an agenda. There is an agenda outside of this virus. Not denying that there's a virus, but there is an agenda. And it's there in plain sight. If people look at the World Economic Forum website and look at their manifesto and their vision of shaping this great reset. And if you look on UK Gov at the 4th Industrial Revolution documents, if you look on Dominic Cummings' blog, which is very interesting, all of this is there in plain sight, and it's being fed through the media, priming societies for their vision of this utopia, which really does favour multinational corporations, and it's a control mechanism. And that's not where we want to go as society. We're born free, sovereign beings, and that must be upheld across the world. And there is a shift in consciousness underway. Many people are feeling the same way, and that is expanding further and further across the world. We are in a real turbulent period for world history and humanity right now.
So I was going to say it's the biggest change since the Second World War, in my opinion, really, like bigger than the end of the Cold War. And what I would say to people who are like, because obviously I understand, right? It's hard to be skeptical because you're going against everything you've been taught. So all I'd say to people that are like, well, I don't know about, all this stuff changing. All right, fair enough. Don't worry about that. Look over the last year. Look at the wealth redistribution. Look,
absolutely.
So that's not a theory. That is a fact of that. So look where the money's gone.
Yeah.
Look what kind of businesses were given help. Look what kind of businesses were not given help. Look at how companies like Walmart, who were allowed to stay open, and now, you know what? Because it's COVID, we want to get rid of all our till staff so we can make things safer. No, you want to lay off hundreds of thousands of your fucking employees after you've just been allowed to be open for a year. So all of that is fact. So anyone that's like, well, I don't know what about these theories. Okay, don't worry about those. Just look at the facts. Mate, there's a lot of stuff to dig into in what you're saying there. One of the kind of things I want to go into is, because there's a lot of people listening today. You and I think it's fair to say we don't give a fuck. We're going to say what we're going to say our piece, and one of the reasons we're able to do that is because we are self-employed, and we can, we've built that kind of life for ourselves. And I recommend anyone out there, if you want to have a voice, make sure that your income is in your own hands, as much as possible.
Yeah.
But it has been hard for a lot. I got a lot of listeners saying that they fall out with family, they fall out with friends, they fall out with, they're in danger of losing their jobs because they want to speak out. And I feel like it's really the wordplay over the last year and a half has been really. So someone like you or me who's been saying people have individual rights, selfish for saying that. How have you? Is that something that, because you've been interested in this stuff for a while? Is that level of wordplay and stuff something that's really kind of cranked up in the last couple of years, or is this something that you've always seen? Because I feel like they just really, like the way that they've manipulated people's best intentions has been really evil, basically.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of shaming terminology used. There's a lot of guilt terminology, like act like you've got it, don't kill granny. All of this is based in neuro-linguistic programming. Now, a lot of people may not understand what NLP is, but, it's language techniques and how to influence and shape direction. Now, all of this has been thought out by the behavioural science departments. But a lot of this has, even my own son he's 17. He's in a good school. We don't live together. He lives with my ex-wife, but, he's been taken in by all of these, kind of all of this terminology and this psychological, it's a psychological operation, basically, kind of all of this signage everywhere, this fear projection. There's a huge fear projection that's underpinning this as well and keeping people in fear. I'm not afraid of death. I believe consciousness is infinite. I don't want to die. But there's this inherent fear of death that has taken over the world. Yes, people have died, and it's really, really sad. It's really sad because the first wave of this virus back in 2020, it took a lot of good people and a lot of the elderly community. My mother shielded for over a year. She had the AstraZeneca vaccination, and I firmly believe that since then, her health has deteriorated. She's just come out of hospital after a month. She collapsed at home. She has an eye condition, all of these things, and her own state of mind, the depression. And this is for the elderly community in particular, being unable to have loved ones around at their point of passing, unable to have contact with their family members in care homes, people looking through the window and talking on telephones out at prisons and care homes. All of this is very, very cruel. Elderly people, yes, they have shielded, but it's affected them, and a lot of them haven't been out of the house for 16 months or their flat, and they don't want to go out because it has had this effect that the isolation has brought upon them. And also children in care homes without their and care institutions without their birthright parents. What are the feelings of these kids? Their voices are not heard. And the suicide statistics that have soared since this whole thing began. And are continuing to rise.
Yeah, they're not going to go down.
No, and the mental health crisis that this has created, depression, anxiety, loss of hope, all of these things combined, it isn't acceptable or normal. And this effect that it's having on society, and walking along the street and someone will pull their mask up and look at you like you're the Black Death. It's just like, my God, this is bloody balmy. And, a hot day by the sea, and you've got people on the beach in masks, but it's not their fault. And I'm not judging.
No, agreed.
It's because of the fear that has been programmed into their minds. They have this fear that has overshadowed any rational thinking or critical thinking, that or they may have lost somebody. All of these things combined has created this. If I don't take these precautions, I'm going to die, and I don't. This fear of death has really kind of driven this as well. And And I think, as society, I think we need to kind of embrace actually what the meaning of death is, as Asian cultures do. In the Buddhist and Hindu cultures, death isn't frowned upon. It's not frowned upon at all. This is part of the cultures there. So we don't have that here. So this whole thing that's come along has brought this issue to the forefront, but I don't think we're dealing with it very well.
I totally agree, mate. One of the reasons I think that Western countries are flapping about this more than other nations in the world is because we've lost religion here. And I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person.
Yes.
And we have no structure around talking about death, thinking about death, accepting death. I'm like you. I think that consciousness, my consciousness in one way or another is going to live on after me. I don't want to fucking die, but it's going to happen, so I might as well be okay with it. And I tell you what I definitely don't want to do is live my fucking life in an apartment and then die.
Yeah, exactly. You're shortening your life. You're just existing, and through these lockdowns, this one in the winter has been very hard, I'm fortunate. I live by the sea. I can go where I want and I do what I want. But the effect it's had upon the community is, you walk to the shop and there's no one around, or, I swim in the sea all year round. So, cold water therapy is has been very helpful and continues to be with the community of swimmers. And this has flourished and increased as a result of these lockdowns. But the lockdown was very, very difficult in terms of mental health for people. And on the other hand, I think what has also come out of lockdown, particularly for people who live on their own, is the self-searching and realization that has taken place. Spending a great deal of time alone and not being around other people and interacting, Zoom and all that, that's not real life. But, kind of interacting with other people, and that is not there. Spending time alone, thinking about life, really kind of digging deep. I feel that there's a large percentage of people that have done a lot of soul searching and reconnected with their spirituality and what spiritual meaning is. And I think that, out of that negative set of circumstances has come something positive as well, with, as you're saying, with faith and a belief in faith. And I feel that more people have actually gravitated towards a meaning of God of their own understanding, what they believe to be God. And that has been lost along the way. It's been replaced by this quick fix culture. And this is the thing, what's going on now. It's looking for a quick fix solution at any cost without doing due diligence and a risk assessment and looking at risks and hazards, particularly with, kind of medical procedures and what have you, and one's personal health, how you can protect your immune system, boost your immune system. It's a quick fix culture we live in. Everything is so quick fire. It's like, I want that solution. I want it now. I want that item and I want it now. It's a 30-second attention span. So, it's kind of, quick fix solutions do not end well.
I do think people are inherently good. I also believe people are inherently lazy. And as much as I love people out there, everyone out there, you're fucking lazy. Most people are. We are all lazy. We are always, we have two voices. Every single one of us has two voices in our head. And there's that one voice who's going, one more rep, run up this hill, take the stairs. And there's that other voice going, but you did legs yesterday. You don't need to do that. Or you can have an extra thing. And there's a war going on. Every single one of us has a war going on inside our head between those. My friend Andy Friselli calls it the bitch voice and the boss voice. Yeah. And there's a war going on between those two all the time.
Yeah.
And most people don't want to do the work. And again, it's not their fault most of the time because they haven't got an MP company. They haven't been in the army, or they haven't had the granddad to push them or the dad to push them. They've always been told, it's okay. It's all right that you're overweight. It's society's fault for judging you. They're the problem. And it's like, well, hang on. We're not judging. We're just saying that we don't want you to die of obesity-related illnesses. Oh, no, that makes you fucking selfish. And I think, because I'm a very, I love people, mate. I love people, and I think most people are good. But I also want to fucking shake everyone, because it's like, you got to do some work too. You have to do some work. And like looking back, I think there was a nice soft spot now because I kind of get nostalgic for the early 2000s, late 90s, where I'm like, I think we still had the good core values of hard work, anyone can make it, fair play, all that stuff. But we also had, don't be racist, be nice to everybody, like I feel there was a nice sweet spot. And now we've gone too far over to, well, like, let's be honest, mate, what most of this problems boils down to is I want someone to solve a problem for me. That's what most of it boils down to.
Yeah. Not long-term thinking and long-term solutions, medium, long-term. It's just everything is too quick. And this cancel culture that has emerged and all this fact-checking and all of this stamping out anybody who has an opinion that is that differs from the mainstream one-dimensional narrative. This is appalling what's going on. People being smeared and attacked, I'm talking verbally attacked and, kind of.
Well, I'm physically.
Yeah.
People, like, especially in LA and places, mate, I know girls that have been attacked by people for not wearing a fucking mask outside.
No, it's ridiculous. It's just, it really is. I mean, that happens here as well. I think, we're a little bit more generally understanding, but, all of these things are very, very negative. And right now it's about raising the vibration and not lowering the tone and the vibration towards that. So social media is an example of that. If people don't agree with someone's opinion and they feel safer in the majority, they will become very toxic. I feel Facebook is a hub of that. I left there a year ago. I hold an account. And if there is any of that nonsense, this is, we all have a different level of consciousness and we all, kind of have differences of opinions, but there are ways of debating and talking, but I'm afraid a lot of that has been lost. So the key to it is if there is any animosity and there is this toxic responding and insulting language, do not lower your vibration to where they're coming from. Keep your vibration high. Walk past, walk on. Do not engage online.
That's so hard to win. It's so hard.
Well, it's discipline of the mind. It is hard. And if it's personal, just block them. Don't engage. That's where they're coming from. They might change their mind down the line and then redeem themselves later down the line. So you have to keep that option open and be forgiving down the line. Forgiveness is important. So not everybody knows and not everybody, kind of understands everything. And some people claim to. And generally, a lot of those people are the ones that are the most toxic and bitter. I went onto Twitter for 3 weeks. I lasted 3 weeks. I had some very good conversations and contact. I got suspended, and that was after 3 weeks. So I think, in a sense, I don't know if I want to go back there, but it was a good experience for news. Okay, there's all different opinions, but I came under attack on there. But I will voice my opinion. I'll stand in my truth, and that's the person I am. I'm not going to cower to bullies and online trolling and all of this, as many people experience. It's just, it's unacceptable and it's wrong, and just avoid it. So I lasted 3 weeks on there.
But it's about knowing that stuff, mate, is about knowing when it comes to sticking, like, just because I will get wound up. At the end of the day, I'm a squaddy. I get wound up. Sometimes I want to fucking clack people. That's the end of the story. I'm just being honest. I wish I could reach through the screen and choke the shit out of people, but you can't. But like, the truth is, it's never bothered me when someone said, "Oh, you want all old people to die," because I know I don't want all old people to die. So somebody saying that to me just it doesn't bother me because I know it's not true. Oh, you're a racist. I know I'm not a racist, so it doesn't fucking bother me if anybody says anything like that.
It's guilt projection. That's guilt projection. That's all. That's what that's all about.
Well, but I'm also, it's trying to, like, I'm trying to remember in my head. I'm like, this person has probably just been failed by the people around them. They've been failed by the parents. They've been failed by the teachers. They've been failed by their friends. As much as I want to choke them, right? Like, I'm trying and give them the benefit of the doubt. Because the thing is, mate, if we had 21-year-old me on Twitter, Oh my God, what a fucking asshole I would be. I would be like, all of you, you're all conspiracy theorists. Like, you just want, like, you lot don't love Britain. You should be traitors. You should have your heads cut off. That would have been me if this was going on now, mate. So,
yeah, your 21-year-old version of you would last about an hour on there.
yeah. But there's truth in, I don't think you have to be that, like, you know, older and wiser. I don't think you have to be in your 80s to be wise, but you have to have experience, don't you? How else do you learn?
Absolutely, life experience, and that's really important right now. And unity is really our strength. You know, kind of whatever way you choose or whatever way you think, unity is really important, because there's a lot more problems coming down the line. And I think a lot of people sense this, like all of this whole thing. But I feel that we will, as the human race, overcome these challenges that are being perpetuated towards us all. I do believe that good will triumph over, and it is evil. A lot of this is plain evil in sight that's going on around us. Good will prevail.
I totally agree, mate. If we look, I'm a bit of a history buff, and if you look back over history, we're on an upward trajectory all the time, and then we dip and we go up, and we dip and we go up. And I think right now we're on we've definitely dipped. There's no way you can say when it's illegal to leave your house that we haven't dipped. That doesn't mean that we won't come out on the other side potentially higher. And I agree with you, mate, with the good and an evil thing. And I'm not a religious person. I'm not saying it's religiously inspired, but some people give themselves over to evil.
Yeah.
In my opinion, evil is giving yourself over to greed. That's how I see evil. Giving yourself over to greed, and I include giving yourself over in power. And power could mean anything. And my brother told me this, so shout out to my little brother Mo, because this really kind of made me think. This is how I separate humans now. It's like there's the way that people will treat animals when they're alone with that animal says everything about that kind of like that human being. And there are some human beings out there who will treat an animal poorly and will abuse an animal.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's almost the way that government is treating us now. I don't think, and maybe this is because they just become so desensitized or what, for whatever reason, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They don't see us as equals, as human beings, as souls, as whatever you want to call it. You know, I really do think that they have, and to be fair, we did this when we were in Afghanistan, Iraq. You have to desensitize and dehumanize the other people around you a bit. And I think that's what politicians have done. And I think that they either think that they're a better kind of human being or they're a different kind of human being. But what do you think about that? Or what do you think about people that go after power?
Well, this is a real exertion of power and control, and I feel we're living in a sadomasochistic society. You know, kind of they are the sadists, and we are the well, not all of us, but a huge proportion of society has become masochistic, and it's what more is kind of the sadist controllers going to impose upon us today, and we'll just go along with it and take everything that they're putting our way and not question it and accept it. And that is going to be a huge lesson in life. It's, as I said, there's a lot worse to come. We sense that, we know that, we're aware. Our intuition tells us that is where we are heading. But there is going to be, there's going to be a lot of goodness. The other side of this is going to be a very different world, and it's not going to be this dark energy that is overshadowing the world right now. That's not going to be here any longer. It's going to be a very, very different place, and we've got to go through this, this wind tunnel of darkness and turbulence and chaos and all of these things. To get to that point, but we will overcome. If you look at the just going back to the World Economic Forum, their cashless society, the digital economy, and all of this. We don't want a cashless society, and it's not because we go out and make money in cash. It's kind of cash is important. Let's just say with children, giving gifts or just paying someone a tenner or something. Some people have a small cash business or something.
Well, they're one of the every time you give a few quid to your daughter, they're going to want to come in and take a slice of it. But it's about control again. It's like, why should you be involved in my interaction with anybody? What gives you the right to know my finances? What gives you the right to come in and take? And people would say, well, it's because we provide you a free society. Well, last time I checked, every fucking war that started is by another country. So if all the groups of politicians stop starting wars with the other groups of politicians, I'm not worried about my neighbours coming in my house and trying to take my money. The person I'm worried about coming to try to take my money and my stuff is the fucking government.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I know a lot of villains, as we'd say. None of them have ever threatened me. The only people I've ever been threatened with work for the state. So this idea that this is this I almost said the word there, big brother, who just cares about us, it's just false. There's no one I know in the UK right now is being held behind bars by just anybody else. The only people I know who are behind bars, and by behind bars, I mean for doing stuff which are non-violent offences, they are there. They've been put there by the state. I only know one person that ever put a gun in my hand. It was the state. I only know one person that ever told me to go and kill people. It was the state. My neighbours aren't telling me. Peter in the studio here isn't telling me to go and kill anybody. Yeah. Most people don't, but we're kind of brainwashed basically into believing that if we don't have this big powerful state, that we'll all just be killing each other.
Well, that wouldn't be the case, and it won't be later down the line, because I think this kind of old paradigm of politics, they're pushing for a one world government, the globalists. This is all the WEF again, and the UN, and that's what they're attempting to achieve. So, no, they are not serving us. They are serving multinational corporations and the 1%. And this has been brewing for decades, really, hasn't it? And this whole agenda has been planned for many decades. And, surveillance-based social credit scoring society, which is the Chinese model. And that has no place in our society, in a free society. Or vaccine passports, all of this intrusive surveillance and technology and infringement of civil liberties has no place in a democratic, free society. And people who are so easily will give away those rights and their personal freedoms and personal privacy. Social media has underpinned all of this. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just like, I've got a mobile phone, so, they know everything about me anyway. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, okay, that's how that works. But this is 100 steps on from anything like that we could possibly have imposed upon us. So, vaccine passports, a definite no. And there's, again, it's, the country is split on this. We don't want it. Tony Blair being wheeled out with his globalist the Tony Blair Global Institute for Change, which is backed by the Gates Foundation. He's pushing hard for vaccine passports and medical apartheid. I mean, let's look at his checkered history. He's not the most respected person in on the political stage, but he's here and he's arrived again. And how can anyone respect Blair as a person after what has happened?
He is evil
in the Middle East, exactly. So social credit scoring, AI. This is coming. Universal basic income. No, thank you. Now, if you're unemployed and terminally unemployed and you live off benefits, that probably sounds like a good idea because you'll get more money each month. But that's not ideal, because being on benefits is hard for a lot of people. On universal credit, and they get stuck in this rut of it and depression, and there's compromised local economies and industries. So universal credit will be a leg up the ladder in terms of some income, which would give them a better life. But people who go out and create business, people who are in decent jobs or have been when the furlough ends, many of them won't be, people who are creating things and people who want to create a better life for themselves and not be dependent on that. We don't want that. and we're not going to accept that. No, thank you. We're not having it. It was trialled in Finland about 3 or 4 years ago. And I actually thought it was a good idea before this agenda came rolling into town. I thought this is actually a more fairer approach to things. But when you look at it and the details of it, it's not a fairer approach. It's not. The whole AI thing, and as you're saying about supermarkets, clearing people off the tills, those people have jobs there. And then the robotics and the augmented reality, all of this is, transhumanism. All of this could potentially become the reality that will shift the world into their vision of and their idealism of where society should be. And that will, many people have said this, including Dr. Mike Yeadon, so we cannot allow that to happen because it will be the end for humanity. And people saying this is a conspiracy theory, it's like, this is a reality that people have been shouting from the rooftops for over a year now, for many years, but more recently, they have been attacked, as we said, smeared. All of this is a looming reality. And how could anyone want to live in a world under those terms? How? Yeah. People have to realize your data is of paramount importance. It's personal to you, your health records. Data is it's big business. Your data is sold, it's mined, and it's sold to the highest bidder. That's your data. It's our data. It's nobody else's. Yeah. It's been harvested over the years with social media. That's how the technocracy has risen to this powerhouse worldwide. These things are really frightening. They're really disturbing. Where this is heading, basically, it's people people have got to take stock of things before it's too late.
And mate, whether people are saying, like you're saying, like, oh, well, I am handing over my data anyway, so what's the difference? Well, the difference is if you choose to sign up for an email account and you choose to give your data over, that was a choice. That's very different to being made to consent to other things. Yes. So, the key, the C word, I always say, like, because everyone says people hate the C word. It ain't the one they're thinking of. The C word everyone seems to hate is consent.
Yeah.
It's my body, my choice. I'm not going to say a pro-drug advocate because I don't think everyone should do it. Yeah. But I think if I want to do drugs, I should be allowed to do drugs. My body, my choice, my responsibility. If I go an overdose from taking something, that was on me.
Yeah. You made that decision.
Exactly, mate. The same, but that's the same as if I go play rugby and I break my leg. That was my responsibility. And I think one of the interesting things about this is people label you and me, they'll say like, oh, they're selfish and all this stuff. But I actually said, I think that what we're saying is we think that human beings are capable of so much that's why we want people to have individual rights, because basically the government approach is saying you're too fucking stupid to look after your own life. You're too fucking thick to do any of this. You're not to be trusted. So we need all these rules. What you and me are saying is we think you're fucking awesome and we want you to be able to live your life.
Yep.
Like the universal basic income thing. They're like, oh, people will use it and they'll do arts and all this. I'm fucking telling you now, anyone I know that wants to be doing art is doing art. They might be doing it on the side from working in a full-time job.
Yeah.
But if someone wants to make it happen, they're already trying to make it happen. And we've seen this, mate. Let's be fucking honest about this. Over the last year, a lot of the country has been sitting home at 80% furlough. Have most of them been using it to try and get into a new career, new education? No, have they fucked? They've been watching fucking Netflix. So let's be honest about that.
Yeah, and that is financial bribery. That's what has kind of pacified the nation, really. Great, get 80% of your wages on furlough, sit in the garden, have a barbecue, it's wine o'clock, read a few more books, watch Netflix, could be up to date with all the box sets and everything that, and then there's this going on the other side of the fence, Yeah. So, it's going to be very interesting when furlough ends soon, and what the impact of that's going to be to companies.
Mate, I want to ask you a few questions about creativity before we move on. I just noticed the time. The time's got away from me. Because you talk about collective consciousness. This is something I really enjoy asking artists. Where do ideas come from?
Where do ideas come from? The dream state. I believe that when we dream at night, we go into a different parallel state of consciousness, into another realm. It's another world. My own thinking about this, when you're in the dream state, your body isn't physical. So is that therefore your consciousness in another? I mean, this may sound pretty kind of out there, but
no, mate, I'm into it.
I feel that's where your consciousness is. That where you go when you die?
Yeah.
Is that where your consciousness goes to that other dimension when you die, into the world? Some people say the spirit world, or the parallel universe. But when we go to sleep at night, we dream. But that's another world. It's another world of consciousness. So dreams evoke a lot of creativity. Travel, which has been severely restricted. Travel is great for character building. It's great for influence and inspiration, and whether it be fashion, the arts, whatever, cooking, whatever it may be, travel is a great inspiration to the world. Creativity is sparked through many different things, kind of past history, past writings, past art. It's all influences from here and there, and looking at something that may have been produced 100 years ago, and there's an idea is sparked out of that creative idea. There's just a flash of that's a good idea. I'm looking at that, and I could present it in this way, and that's one of the wonders of creativity.
Right, here's one for you then on the dream one. So I'm sure you've had this. Sometimes you wake up and you feel maybe you've had a dream about love and you're heartbroken, or you've had a dream about excitement and you wake up and your adrenaline's going, or you've had an argument and you wake up with a bad mood. So if your dream influenced you that much, so right now, if I have an argument with Peter, my adrenaline's going to go up, right? So we'd say that's reality. Reality has caused my adrenaline to go up. But if I dream and that causes me to have that reaction, how is that any less then of a reality than if it was happening in the physical realm? And then you have to ask yourself then, well, if that is the case, then what is reality? Are we defining reality by what sets off an emotion in my body? Or I'm fascinated by this stuff, mate, because I never used to think about it until the last couple of years. And now that this is why, like you, I'm like, I know this is going somewhere. This consciousness, it's going somewhere when this dies. And I don't know where that is, but I'm kind of excited about it in a way too.
And our consciousness is evolving, and it's heightened, as you're saying. You started looking a bit deeper and more closely at things a couple of years ago. So it's an evolution of one's personal consciousness. But yes, back to waking up out of dreams, you can have I dreamt about a friend of mine who died, and I met him in the dream, and he was a leading DJ producer, and it was so real, but the physicality wasn't there in the body. And then he walked off down this hill to go and play at a festival, and it looked like we were in Sydney, and it was just so real. And I woke up out of the dream, and I had goosebumps all over my body, and I just had this sadness. It was just because he just disappeared down the hill. And I wrote everything down, what I just experienced in the dream. So, waking up out of the dream state, your consciousness, and then sometimes you forget all of it. But there's significant dreams that you take that with you throughout the day. It's that dream, that particular dream, which happened last year. That all day, I was thinking about it all day, the experience, and for days after.
I can see now that it touches you too. It's still there with you now.
Yeah,
like that feeling. Do you ever meet your granddad in your dreams?
Once I met him in the dream, but it was very brief. And I do feel that I was in Singapore once, and it was Christmas time, and I was working there, and I was out there on my own, and I travelled on my own, and I was just sitting in the room, and I could feel his presence there, and I was having a chat with him. And I was receiving his speech in my mind. It wasn't like sitting there having a chat and I'm getting the answer in kind of real time sound, but in my mind I was listening to what he was saying. So that, a couple of experiences I've had. Yeah,
I've had those, mate. I had one recently. I was walking up over the top of the mountain by mine, and this is back towards the winter.
Yeah,
and I put on, it was a beautiful day, and I started thinking about, this song came on, the Green Day song that was played at one of my mate's funerals. He died in Afghan.
Sorry.
And instantly, it started. Fucking unfortunately, a good lad when it happened, but it started raining. And at that moment, it started raining just out of nowhere. And people could just tell me it's a coincidence. And fine, you can tell me it's a coincidence. I don't mind.
Yeah.
But it was what I felt inside me. It wasn't the rain. It wasn't the fact of the track on. But I just felt in that moment that he was with me. And maybe that is just a feeling that I made up. But again, that feeling was real, so that means it's reality. You know what I mean? Like, that is reality.
Exactly. You felt that. You felt that.
Yeah.
In every cell in your body, you felt his presence there.
So he might as well have been standing next to me.
Yeah.
Because for all intents and purposes, he was there with me.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's what people mean when they say that stuff. And because he was, like, as far as I'm concerned, he was with me. My whole emotional state, the rest of my day changed, And I think all you have to do to have this stuff is to just be open to it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, rather than just closing down on it.
Yeah, and that goes for everything, mate. I think what we've been saying all along basically is, we're not saying you and me, we're not saying we have all the answers, but we're saying that no one has all the answers. So don't be like, right, this is the one way you've got to do. This is the one way we got to do everything. We have to do all lockdowns like this. We're not saying everyone go and join the TA. Everyone go do this. You got to find your own path.
Yeah.
But mate, the time has absolutely flown today. And thank you so much for it. It's been a real pleasure. I know you've probably got some more pearls of wisdom in there that I want to give you the final speech, mate. So can you just let anyone know where they can find you, how they can support you? You've given up your time today, so I'm sure people will want to do something to get you back. And then any just final thoughts for our noble listeners, mate?
You can find me, Danny Rampling, on Instagram under my name. Assume.London is the club website. Facebook, I'm not on. I have an account there, a music page, which I just have some music posts there. I don't particularly use Facebook these days, but that's it really. That's where I can be found, and if you want to send a message, and on Mixcloud, which is a streaming platform for all my music. So my radio podcasts are on there, the Love Groove Dance Party, which I used to present on BBC Radio 1 for 7 years. I began that again last year in the when everything just stopped and the lockdown began. So and it brought a lot of joy to people at that time. It was like, great, come back on the radio and you're talking to us, and we're at home alone, and it brought a lot of joy to people. The feedback I've been having from people who've been listening to the show. So those are the main platforms where I can be found. But I think come back in a year and see where we're at then, shall we? To be continued to part 2.
Yeah.
Trust your intuition. One of the lessons I've learned in life is don't go against your intuition. So if you're not feeling comfortable, let's just say, going to an event or something, or, I don't go. There was a recent thing and I didn't feel comfortable. Something in my gut, in my core was saying, don't go today. And I didn't go. But with kind of other, that's just one example, but intuition is there to serve us, and it's how we process and listen to our inner voice and our intuition. It's very important, and definitely do not let them divide us. We are one. It's this division, this divide and conquer. Don't play into the hands of divide and conquer. Unity is so important right now at this critical junction point for the world.
Guys, thank you for listening to today's podcast. Danny, thanks for coming on the podcast, mate. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for creating the industry that I love so much. Guys, if you want to support Danny, please check him out. Everything's linked down in the show notes for his social media, websites, all that kind of thing. And support the dance music industry. I know a lot of our listeners are dance music fans. Get out there, guys, buy tickets, stream songs, share songs. Again, you don't have to spend money to support people. Sharing their posts, liking their posts, which gets them seen by more people because of the algorithm. Telling people about it. Using that thing in the middle of your face. It's not just for eating Doritos. You can also tell people about guests. You can tell them about the podcast. Just share it around, guys. I do really appreciate, I appreciate all of you guys at the end of the day, but I do appreciate some of you more than others. And those people are the ones who share the podcast, leave reviews, tell a mate, all that kind of stuff every episode. You guys are legends. We would not be able to grow the podcast without you. We don't run ads, which means, we have no way of getting this to new sets of ears without you guys telling people. That's a bottom line. So we're relying on you guys. So if you enjoy, I think it's fair enough to say if you enjoy an episode, share that episode. If you don't enjoy the episode, don't share it. Fine little deal between us. Before we go, obviously I want to say thank you to the Royal British Legion, supporting veterans and their families. They've been doing it for 100 years. You can find them in the show notes or rbl.org.uk. Please follow them on social media. They do a lot of posts to promote not only what the Legion has going on, but what the Legion's done in the past and why they do it, which is obviously important. You always want to know with the why. Start with why, I think, is it? Simon Sinek says that. There you go. I'm taking him. Start with why. Check out the Royal British Legion. Guys, thank you so much for today. Danny, thank you very much again, mate. And I'll catch you next time, and I love you. Bye.
You told me not to worry, and you wouldn't break my heart. You told me you were sorry, yeah, my whole world fell apart. You said it's not my fault, and yeah, I've never done you wrong. I'm grinding to a halt, now I can see you're moving on. I promised I'd get better, and I told you things would change. You keep me to the gutter, yeah, I'll never be the same. I've got to let you go, now live your life and spread your wings. And yeah, you put on quite a show and pulled the puppet strings. And are you sure that you don't want me? Remember all the pain, or maybe you should thank me. It's your loss and my gain. I'm leaving now forever, I won't hang my head in shame. But yeah, you've taken me for granted, and you should feel ashamed. You sold a dream to all of us, a dream that we'd all die for, a reason for us all to live and something we could fight for. I might just help a man up to his feet or hold a newborn, but no matter what I do, my hands remembering my rifle, yeah.
Life's hard, I know that, still wouldn't change shit. I wouldn't go back, yeah, I wouldn't go back. Feelings I hold back, memories fade, yeah, they go fast, yeah, they go fast. Good times that come and go, survive the highs and lows, just take it step by step, I guess, yeah, I suppose. Good times that come and go, survive the highs and lows, just take it step by step, I guess, yeah, I suppose.